Here we have an issue to diagnose. Left indicator works fine. And the right indicator, kind of intermittently, you can see it's kind of stuck on a glow there. And if we try the hazards, that's flashing faster than it should. The first thing to check is the grounds. So what's interesting is it's the entire right hand side. Sometimes it will just be one corner, but the entire right hand side isn't working. The ground serves all the other lights in the cluster and they all work, so it shouldn't be the ground. And the next thing to do is check the bulbs. So swap those over. Sometimes I've had it, if you get a new bulb, you put it in there, the new bulb can actually be broken. So it's always worth swapping them over just to see that it definitely works in another one. So tried that and that doesn't work either. So the suspect is in the column itself. So we'll take the steering wheel off and see what we can find inside the column. We've removed the horn button and now we need to remove this clip. Then next, this is easy, just some Phillips head screws. Then we have this plate under here, and so there we have our horn button, and this is a 20 or 21 mil. So we'll get that on there. Just need to hold the steering wheel while we do this. There we go, that's broken loose. And then the last thing we need is a steering puller. So we're just putting on the pillar, and as you can see, there's 2 threaded holes already in there, so you just find the right thread to match, and then you run these in, and then when they're on, you then just tighten this, and then it pulls this off. So we'll just get these tightened up. And it's important to have this backed off as much as possible so you can get these in as far as possible, so you have the maximum amount of thread engagement there. So there we go. Now we just tighten this up, and this will start to pull the steering wheel off. There you go. That's done. And that is the steering wheel off. So you can see I may have gone a bit too far with those screws. It just started to touch the plastic there. And for this you just use a screwdriver and you start prying the plastic off. And then it should just pull off. And now for the hard bit, is taking this locking ring off. So there is a circlip here, and you can see the gap for it is there. So what we need to do is we need to push this plate in, and then we can undo that clip, and then we can pull this off. But there's a very heavy spring behind this, so you can kind of push it with your hands, but then trying to get the clip as well is very difficult, and your fingers will probably hurt afterwards. So what we've done to make our lives easier is we kind of MacGyvered the situation by putting a bracket with a big enough hole that goes over here, then using the same nut that was on here and 2 sockets we can then push down, as you can see, and then as we tighten this, this moves down, pushes this plate down, and you can already see there's almost enough there to get to that clip. So we'll just and that is plenty there. So now we can just get to that clip, and it's a bit tricky. You kind of need 2 screwdrivers really, one to hold it in place and then another one just to kind of push it. But you can see it's effectively C-clip, so you just need to kind of widen out one of the parts and then you can pry it out, and you can see there that clip is off, probably the most difficult part of it. And then we'll just undo this, and as soon as this loses tension, this will probably fall on the floor because I'm holding the camera. You can get a tool that does this, but I can't get hold of one, and this just works. And you can see still that spring is pushing up. There we go. So now what we'll do is we'll just take this off, just kind of wiggles off there, and when you come to reassemble this, you'll see that this can only go in so much of a position there. So that just simply comes off, and now we can see the mechanism. So something here must be out of alignment. I'll get the battery hooked back up and we'll take a look. Battery is in and the ignition is on, so if we go left indicator, you can see that works. And you can see this mechanism here, how it moves. Let's see if right indicator works. So there is some contact there, there's something going on. We need to try and figure out why the right one is only partially making contact, it seems. So if we try with the hazards. So same thing as before, just going too quickly. And that's because there's less resistance in the system because those lights on the right aren't working. So we'll have to look at the diagrams and understand which contact is doing what, and then we can start to diagnose better. And to get to the contact, so these are the retaining pins and they hold in position. So this is what kind of gives it that solid stop. Just under here you have these retaining tabs, just there, and then one under there. So you just need to kind of pry this off to get that out. This one needs to come out as well. So just pull that off. And then that side can slide up, and that frees up this unit here, so we can then pull this off and have a look at what's going on underneath here where the actual contacts are. So that's just your turn signal cam there. So the issue is somewhere here with these contacts, and just on the other side of the turn signal cam, so you have these contact points here. So as you can imagine, those parts that stick out, the soldered parts there, are making contact and kind of riding along here. So something is going on between here and there that it's only sometimes making contact. It could just be that maybe something's pushed in a bit too much and that's causing the contact to not fully engage, which might be why we're only having partial signal. What I'm trying here is, with this loose and not connected to anything, so that's left, and that's working. And if I go back to the center, it's fine. So there's springiness in this. See, when I go right, nothing. But if I push down, it's working, but then it stops. We need to dig a bit deeper, but we're getting there. And looking at the wiring diagram, this is the incoming power for when the brake lights are on or when the hazards are on, and they get to this section here. So this is the input, and then this is the output for, this is right rear and this is left rear. And when you see how these contacts work, you can see it forms a bridge. So that central contact touches here and then it distributes power either side of it. If we have power on one side, we should have power on the other side. So we can test this with the hazards for 12 volts and then see what's happening on either one of these legs. And because we have power on the front left and the rear left, it means either there's an issue with it bridging over here or from this part down. For the indicator side of things, same thing. When you move the indicator left or right, it doesn't matter. It's going to put power to this central piece and then it's going to bridge to either front left or rear left. So what we're doing here is, this is the connector that comes from the column. So this goes down from where the switches are, and we've got the other side here which is going to the lights, and this is our constant 12 volt feed. So we're just trying the different coloured wires to see if we can just get a signal to just bypass any of the switches. We're using our wiring diagram. This white one is the stop tail light, and then the dark green and then the dark blue are the right hand side lights. So this is the right rear and this is the right front. So what we're doing is we're just feeding this 12 volts in. We've verified we've got 12 volts here. It's just coming straight out the fuse box. And then when we put this to any of these, it should just light the lamp up, and we've been able to successfully check the front left, and that's working okay, but we're still not getting anything on the right hand side, so kind of suggests that it's probably something not up in the column, something further down. So this half of the connector, this goes down behind the fuse box and then out the other side. So we're going to see where else we can jump the wire and just kind of try and find out where the break is. The incoming power is here, the purple and the brown, and one is the hazard and the other one is for the indicator, but those are both constant 12 volts, and we know we're getting those because we are getting both working on the left hand side. So it could be, we could have a break somewhere in this wiring loom itself, going down to the firewall, or maybe coming out of the firewall. So we'll have a look at that next. It was a bit windy, so I'm re-recording this. So I undid the bolt so I could get to the connector, and I want to do a continuity test here. And this is just me showing that connector going to the voltage meter, so now I can test for continuity against the firewall. And I noticed that I wasn't always getting a signal. There might be something up with that. So what I'm doing now is, this is the wiring that goes straight to the lights, so I'm going to jump 12 volts to these pins here, and that's that wire coming across there. So that's coming from the battery into that connector, and that connector then loops, and you can see I am getting a constant 12 volts. So that side of the connection is fine. So my suspicions brought me to the connectors needing a clean, and I broke out the WD-40, and I'm giving the connections a good clean here. So I let that soak for several minutes, and I'm just trying different brushes just to kind of get all of that gunk cleaned out of there. And I'm also cleaning the bulkhead side of the connector as well. And then I'm just going through and scraping up all of the residue in there. So this probably took about half an hour altogether, but it's looking much cleaner now. And this was our issue. I've added some contact grease as well, just so we don't have any future issues with moisture or corrosion or anything. And then I'm just going to verify before I go any further that this is still working. So I'm just putting this on as a test, and then I can make sure that the connections are working. So I'm just going to put it into position, and now we have right indicator working, and that's the rear indicator working. So now I'm happy with that. I can start to reassemble everything. And to reassemble, we start with the horn button. As you can see, the back of that is the contact point for the horn there. So we'll put that on, and the difficult bit, so this part will go on here, and this goes with this part, the convex part will go that way, so you see the concave part, and this has, on the spline, you can see just there, there's a gap in the spline, and that lines up just there. So we just need to position that roughly there. And so we have the tool on, and that's just our two sockets that are pushing in on this plate. We have our lock ring ready to go, and then we just ratchet this on. Okay, you can just see that almost there. There we go, so that should be enough. We'll slide the lock ring down, and so you're going to need a screwdriver just to kind of open these up and slide them over. All you need to do is just push this all the way down. And there you go, that's clipped into place to make sure it's in the groove. And what I'm going to do now is just test that everything's still working underneath, because obviously we've put some pressure on here just in case anything's moved around. So what I'll do is I'll take this off, put the battery on, and see if the lights work. We've gone ahead and tested the indicators, the hazards, and the horn, and everything's working, so we'll continue reassembly. And we'll start by putting the plastic cover on, and there's a small indentation here, and the cutout for this horn area, so we'll just match that up, and then that just simply gets pushed on, and that will clip into place, and then that's that part done. Next we put on the steering wheel. So just line that up with the horn button there, and then just try and catch the splines. There we go. And then on with the retaining nut. and there is a torque setting for this, so we'll grab a torque wrench shortly. And here we are with the torque wrench, so this comes up to 30 foot-pounds. Okay, there we go, and we're set at 30 foot-pounds, and on goes the horn plate, so that just goes in there, and then you just line these up with the holes, and this is what allows the horn to go up and down. And once that is on, the last thing is this for the horn retainer, and need to make sure this notch here is at the top because the horn button will lock into that. So we'll just line these up. And that's good and working. With that on, we have to put the clip back on. Just make sure that's seated. Yep. That's good to go. And then finally the horn. We just align that there, and that will just clip into place there. And it looks like we were able to fix the issue. So if you found that helpful, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. It will give me some encouragement to kind of keep making these and helping out where I can. Thanks for watching.